Walker with the right hand gets all the way to Root and slams it home.
We got a bunch of dogs on this side. We're willing to fight for 40 minutes.
And the Owls will hold on and win the Little East Conference Championship.
Oh boy, what a game!
Welcome to Owls Overtime. It's Friday, February 2nd, and I'm your host, Tom Rogers. It's the show where we talk everything KSC sports. If you didn't check out episode 1, be sure to. It was a great start to the podcast with athletic director Marty Testo. And hey, if you tune into any of the Owls basketball live streams, you'll recognize the voice of today's guest. It's none other than my classmate, JJ Leblanc. JJ and I talk about his time as part of the basketball broadcast team, the additions of new players, and the future of the men's team. But first, let's recap what happened this week with all the Owls teams. It may have been back on Saturday, but it'd be hard to forget the performances from the swimming and diving teams. The men were competing against Plymouth, and the women were competing against both Plym and Rhode Island College. Kylie Young continued to make her opponents seem like they were wearing life preservers as she graced past the competition, winning the 50 butterfly, 400 and 200 IMs, as well as being part of the winning 200 freestyle. It was a clean sweep for the Owls teams, lapping their LEC opponents. On Wednesday, the Owls celebrated. Just 2 minutes into the matchup against Vermont State Castleton, Mason Jean-Baptiste reached 1,000 points in his KSC career. It was awesome to be in attendance, and it's something Owls fans have gotten to see recently with Jeff Hunter and Octavio Brito, but it's exclusive company those guys are in. Baptiste makes just the 40th player in program history to reach the 1,000-point mark. And I loved Mason's response at the end of this game. He acknowledged, yeah, it's cool, I've gotten to this point, but hey, this team as a whole has a destination they haven't reached yet. But JJ and I talk more in depth about that game, so if you're looking to hear more, stay with me for that interview. The Owls did win the game 93-59. The Owls women took down the Spartans too, and no surprise, Bryn Ratiola led the charge, scoring 29. The rookie leads the LEC in scoring, but JJ and I talk more about that as well coming up. Unfortunately, though, yesterday, the Owls women couldn't keep their winning streak going as the Panthers snapped it in a close one, 54-51. It was an exciting week for KSC sports. Let's cap it off with my buddy, JJ Leblanc. All right, I'm now joined with JJ Leblanc. JJ, firstly, thanks for being here.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
So, you've been calling basketball games and a variety of other sports for 2 years now, I want to say. Is it 2 years?
It will be 2 years. I started first semester my sophomore year.
All right, so just real quickly, what is your association with the sports programs here at KSC, specifically the basketball teams?
So we're going to go back in time a little bit. I was a music major when I came here.
Right.
And it was just way too many classes. It was just really stressful. I couldn't really do much. So going into my sophomore year, I wanted to do something different. I'd always been a fan of sports, and I just kind of decided it would be a cool idea to maybe change my major to be as close to sports broadcasting as possible. So I did that, changed to journalism, and I joined that class. And the first sport I ever announced was field hockey. And I've done field hockey for the last couple of years. Hopefully we'll do it again next year. But yeah, so like we eventually just like got to basketball and everything became better from there.
Yeah, if you happen to tune into any of the live streams for basketball games, you probably recognized JJ's voice immediately because JJ, I think you do bring the perfect amount of humor and knowledge to a broadcasting crew, and I think that shows really well with your chemistry with Logan. Logan Peranto, for those who don't know, is the person who calls games oftentimes alongside JJ, both women's and men's basketball, and I think they make a great broadcasting team. JJ, how do you feel about that?
I feel great about it. I knew that the first time that we ever did a game together, I knew that we kind of bounced off each other really well. But once we had the Middlebury game, that was the big game that we ended up losing last year. I think it was by either 2 or 4, something like that. We got a lot of people that emailed Abe Oshiak, who's just our teacher for that class, and he told us that we got a lot of good reviews for that. And how it started out before is that we had more people coming in and being and like broadcasting with me and Logan. Sometimes it would be even you.
Yeah,
Sometimes it would be.
I think we had a game or two at least.
Yeah, no, I think we did one game together.
We did one men's game. We might have done a women's too, but I definitely remember the men's game because you had me rolling on air.
Yeah, just saying some of the stupid stuff that I say. But we got such good reviews from that game that Abe pulled us into his office and he was like, we want you guys to do all the men's basketball games because we're really good. We're going to have a lot of people listening. And at that point, it was more along the lines of, wow, this is kind of weird that I've only been doing this for like a few months and it's already coming along really well. And it's me personally, I think it's continued to come along really well throughout the past year.
No, it's gotten better. I mean, I don't always have the ability to even watch a full game. So sometimes I'm even stuck with just, those 6-minute highlights that come out.
Mm-hmm.
And Logan's just as great, by the way. But I always come away with at least one or two funny moments from JJ. and you always at least have some great insight as well. Like, that's what I was saying. You have this perfect balance of knowledge and humor. But let's talk about something you got to call just this past Wednesday. I'd say arguably the biggest story of KSC sports this past week was Mason Jean-Baptiste finally hitting the 1,000-point career mark. I was there in attendance. I was right behind you. I was giving you some trouble there. It was really cool to see Moment live. Did it feel like for a while you guys had been counting down for that moment?
So most of that, what we've been talking about, and maybe even by the time this episode comes out, there was always Jeff Hunter was going to be the school leader all time in rebounds.
I think blocks maybe too.
And blocks I didn't hear anything about that, but we had been counting down the rebounding record. And about a week before the game that Mason did hit that 1,000-point mark, we were just talking about it. I had no idea, but we did an interview with him after the game because he had a really good game. And we were talking to him about it, and he said, I have a lot of people that have been texting me about it. And I looked at it, he was the 40th guy. And this is a long school, like less than 50. Just become like the 40th person to ever do that. It was really cool. It was really cool to see that live. And some of the things you don't think about is that that's going to be footage that his family's going to want to have forever, that you're going to be able to watch that. And like my voice is going to be a part of it. So that is cool. You kind of want the call to be as good as possible. So going into it, because he was 2 points away, I knew he was going to hit it. So there was a few things that I thought I wanted to talk about. The shot that he got there was transition 3. I wanted to talk about the celebration. I think it was his mother and maybe his little brother was out there. I don't know for a fact, but someone was out there with a camera, a little guy out there running with the team. It was really awesome to see.
That was cool.
So you just want to be as transparent as possible. You want to make the right call because the worst thing you can do for someone else in their family is for a big moment like that is botch the call. So you don't think about that while it's going on, but leading up to that, like, you're nervous.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it might not even be that big of a deal. I might just be super paranoid, but I don't know. I wanted to make the call as good as possible. And I think it did. I went back and I listened to it, and I was like, it was probably as good as it was going to be with me on the microphone.
Yeah, I'll talk about it coming up. I did go back and watch some of the full live stream because I needed to, pick apart some plays for my previews or my recaps in the first segment of the show. But it was so cool to be in attendance. Coach Hastings taking the time out to let Mason and his teammates soak it in. You mentioned the little brother. We think it might be. Not unconfirmed.
Yeah, it's definitely unconfirmed. If it's not, I'm sorry, but it was still
someone who cares a lot. Big Mason fan.
Yeah,
and
big
we respect
Mason fan.
that. And we all are here. So that was obviously an electric moment. But you've gotten to be a part of a few really cool moments here as a broadcaster at KSC. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I hope I'm not, you were a part of the call for the LEC championship last year.
Yes, I was. That was cool. That was one of those things that I didn't even think about at the time because, like I said, I'm more of an NBA guy. I watch like professional basketball more than college basketball.
A lot of people do.
So I didn't realize how, at the time, I didn't really think about how big of a deal it was. I knew it was a big deal, but that was back when I first started broadcasting. I didn't think about that this is going to be a call that people are going to want to hear forever, or at least see the video forever. And my number one goal is for people to not mute the television and just watch the play. I want what I say to add to the celebration. And that final calling that game was cool because I tried my best to sound like a soundbite. I think I was like, the Keene State Owls are moving on to the LEC championship. It didn't sound very natural. I definitely could have done it better.
You went full Anchorman on that.
No,
one?
it was definitely full Anchorman, and it's just like kind of something I kind of regret. But you live and you learn.
Well, you're like a smarter Ron Burgundy, so.
Thanks, Tom.
Well, let's talk a little more about that specific game. Like I said, I was there, and as cool as Mason hitting the 1,000 point mark was, not long after that, there was a very fun, I want to say 3 to 4 minutes of what I would call the Alonzo Linton show. He had this coast-to-coast dunk that was so flush. It seemed like he had no hesitation about that's what he was going to do. Do you remember calling that?
I do remember calling that. What did I say? I think I said hello, nasty.
I think you said hello, nasty, Alonzo Linton, because I've definitely replayed that clip because I wanted to potentially include it as a soundbite here. Maybe I'll throw that in. But he is a transfer, right?
Yeah, he's a transfer. He was here last year, but he didn't play just because of the NCAA rules.
Oh, okay.
But
because I thought he looked familiar, but I was like, I don't remember seeing him play last year.
he definitely adds to a lot of the talent aspect because we lost. I'm really blanking on his name. I'm sorry. We lost the point guard last year.
Jarek
Seashon.
Yeah, Jarek.
And I don't know if a lot of people listening to this watch a lot of KSC men's basketball games. I assume they do if they're listening to this.
I hope they do.
Yeah, I know. I hope they do as well. He was a huge leader. He was I think he was the oldest one on the team, or he was at least the oldest guy on the team that started. He was a fifth-year guy. He was leaving, and that was a big thing. I went back home, and because my parents love talking about the KSC basketball stuff that I do, and they were like, man, that's crazy they're going to lose Jarek. Because there was a lot of times that during commercial breaks, the stuff that a lot of the guys don't get to see out there, there was a lot of times where maybe Octavio or Jeff was getting a little, like, they were getting a little freaked out because of something that was going on. Or Nate, some of the guys when they were younger. And Jarek would always be the kind of guy that pulled them together and said, like, no, guys, we got this. Which can kind of sound a little cliche, no matter which way you spit at it. But that was one of the things that I was worried about them losing because they made it really far and they started the season. This season they lost to Stockton and they lost 2 games. They lost to Tufts. So they aren't going to be as good as last year in the win column. But one of the big things that people don't talk about is how big Octavio Brito has been on a leadership standpoint for the Owls this year. Because Jeff Hunter is always going to be a leader. But I think losing Jarek really elevated Octavio into being more of a vocal leader because he does a lot of stuff like that. So back to what you were saying about Alonzo, what I thought they were going to lack from a leadership standpoint this year, they've definitely made up for with talent. Because I've said it since day one, I think Alonzo should be in D1. I don't know how he's not in D1. The way that he moves with a frame like that is crazy.
Yeah, that coast-to-coast dunk. It was like 3 steps. It was like watching Giannis.
It's like, I say all the time, he reminds me of Nas Reed. You ever watch Minnesota Timberwolves games?
This season, I am ashamed that even though that I believe they're still atop the West.
Yep, top of the West.
I still have mostly stuck to highlights with them.
He does everything good. There's not a lot of plays out there that I say on broadcast, if Alonzo just would have done that. Or, if he had just tried a little bit harder there. He does everything right whenever he's on the floor. I think he does that. I think Wesley does that. I think Nate does that. But Nate's been doing that since last year. So I think adding him has really added to the talent standpoint.
Well, similarly, I had to go back and watch, as I was telling you, I had to go back and watch some of the live stream because I was in attendance and I wanted to maybe include some sound bites. And I ended up actually watching a little more than I anticipated. And after Alonzo gets that nice dunk, he ends up having the next 2 buckets with back-to-back threes for them. Mm-hmm. And somewhere in that time period, I don't know what exactly he did, but you mentioned Wesley Odiase and how he's been a really great addition to this team. Personally, I hate to admit it, I haven't gotten to see every game in person. What can you tell us about him and his impact as he's a freshman, right?
Well, first off, before I say anything about that, he should be LEC Rookie of the Year. I don't think there's another rookie in the LEC that has contributed to winning on this high level like Wesley has.
That's high praise.
He is super great in the half-court setting when it just comes to picking defenders apart at the top of the key. He has dribble moves for a guy that size and a guy that young that'll make your head spin.
He's a big guy.
He's a big guy, but he moves like Octavio.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And we talked to Coach Hastings after a game one time, and he was telling us about how he's actually a really good shooter, but he never shoots. And I never saw anything like that. And in the last game, it was in garbage time, but he was out there. He pulled up from the corner, and it was almost effortless. It almost makes you want him to shoot more threes, but maybe that's just not his game. And Coach Hastings talks about how good of a kid he is, and it makes me happy knowing that we're going to lose Jeff next year because he's a fifth year. We're going to lose some other guys moving forward, and it just makes me happy knowing that even when I leave this school, when I can't broadcast there anymore, that we have young guys that are probably going to be able to lead the team. And he will be able to lead the team. Him and Steven Cordero. I love it when Steven Cordero plays because he moves like Darren Williams.
That's a great comparison.
He moves like Darren Williams. He has good crossovers. He's really good at passing some of the times that he gets to pass. There was one time that, I'm going off record a little bit, but there was one time when Isaac Okatuga, he was going up for a dunk, and Steven, I don't remember what game it was, but he did almost kind of a shovel over the head pass, and he got it. I think Isaac missed the dunk, but you can see it. You can see the vision that Coach Hastings sees in this really good group of guys. So I'm just glad that the program is in good hands once I leave, once some of the other guys leave. And I will be watching more KSC games once I leave this college as well.
Yeah, I think we're in good hands. And especially with how successful the program has been, I think that's just going to draw, me and Marty talked about this last episode, the success of the men's team, it's going to draw more interest to specifically that program, but all of our sports programs. And I think KSC going forward in every sport in the LEC is going to be competitive. And that's really exciting. And a lot of that can be attributed to the success of the men's basketball program.
I agree. It's one of those things that, like I said, I didn't watch a lot of basketball my freshman year, but when I came into my sophomore year, it was really, it almost felt magical being able to call all those games and just see all these guys grow around each other. And just all year, all I've been told was that like they didn't expect them to be this good this year. Like they were not expected to be this good this year. And I remember going into the Tufts game for the tournament, the NCAA tournament, and like we got the bid. It was going to be there. Everyone was crazy. We were going up against Spencer Aronson's brother, who hit one of the craziest shots I've ever seen live in a basketball game. If you go back, it was that banked in top of the key three that should have been called a foul. I don't remember if it was or not. But I remember going into that game, people saying, like, oh, it's over. Like, a bunch of people around me were saying, like, oh, it's over. Like, we're not going to be Tufts. And I remember thinking, like you guys aren't around as much. Like, we're gonna kill them. Like, it's going to be... And, like, we ended up beating them by a little bit. And that was one of the greatest games that I ever got to call, the Tufts game.
You got to really embrace the inner fan instead of just the broadcasting personality.
Well, that was the big thing about it. I felt like it was very divided on if we're going to win that game or not.
Even here.
Like some of the students I was talking to, they were saying like, "Oh, I don't know if they're going to beat Tufts. They got some big bodies." We did end up losing to them this year, and I think a big reason about that was I think their length really bothered some of our guys, and I don't think they were ready for it. But overall, we hung with them pretty well this year. They went back and they resized. I think that we have a good chance of beating them if we play them in the tournament because we know what to expect.
Well, that's what I'm curious about because I hate that I'm looking this up right now, but when Tufts beat us early in the season, it was fairly early in the season. They were ranked 12.
They were ranked 12. We were ranked 7th.
We were ranked 7th.
We were ranked 7th.
Because aren't we currently ranked 7th?
We're currently ranked 7th because
so we regressed a little bit and we've bounced back.
We went down
in the rankings.
We went down to 11th.
Okay.
But I think the Middlebury game really helped a lot that we just had this past week. Like we routed them in Vermont, in Middlebury.
Yeah, it wasn't there, so I had to watch the highlights again.
I think everyone expected that game to be close. It was not.
No.
And I think the final score really shows how that game was. Because like there's some games where you look at the final score and you're saying like, oh, it looks like they lost really badly, but the game wasn't as bad as people say it was. Like that game was bad. Like there was not one point in that game where I thought like, oh man, Middlebury can come back from this.
Well, let's flip the switch a little, if you will. So you also call the women's games, right?
Yes, I do.
So what have your thoughts been on this season for the women?
Oh, man. They have a lot of injuries. They have a lot of women on that team that are hurt. They're missing Ariana Murray, Kenzie Durnford. Those are two huge players.
I didn't realize
They're out for the
Kenzie-
They're out for the
Okay.
season. They're out for the season.
I somehow didn't. I knew Ariana. I didn't realize Kenzie. Wow, I got to keep up
Hold
with
on.
these
I
things.
want to get close to the microphone when I say this.
Okay.
Have you watched a lot of the women's games?
I have started to in the last 3 to 4 weeks, so not everything.
Bro, Bryn Radiola is
Rookie of the
the
year.
truth.
She leads the LEC in scoring as a rookie.
She is the truth.
Oh, she's awesome.
I'm telling you.
Her and Val together are just a nightmare to handle.
No, Val is fantastic, but I'm telling you, bro. This girl, bro, I've never seen anything like it. The way you want to talk about crossovers? Oh my God. The way that she is able to get her shots, she is so confident going baseline that it's fantastic. She knows that she's either going to get fouled or she's going to put the ball in the basket and get fouled. And what's the best compliment for a player like that who can drive to the basket? Incredible free throw shooter, can create her own shot at the age of 18 or 19. I don't know how old she is, but she's a freshman.
Yep.
But Valerie Lutzy is the perfect... Valerie Lutzy...
Such a compliment to her.
She goes on 9-0 runs by herself. And it's all threes, step back threes. She is really good in the mid range, and they're just fantastic. But I'm telling you, if you are a woman out there looking for a D3 school to go to for basketball, I would jump on the Keene State train fast because Coach Boucher, I think, is fantastic. Even though he's been here for a really, really long time, I think he's fantastic in laying out a groundwork. I think when Ariana comes back next year, she's going to be amazing because she'll have this team around her. When Kenzie comes back, they're going to be really good. But I'm telling you, Bryn Radiola is unbelievable. Just like watch a game. Just watch the entire game. Because her defense, too. She's out there guarding the best player. Like picking her up right when she crosses half court. And she doesn't get tired. I've never seen anything like it. She is unbelievable.
I mean, clearly, like I said, leads the LEC in scoring. She's a rookie. It's crazy. She's also the only... At the time I checked this was yesterday, so I assume it's still accurate. Mm-hmm. She was the only person averaging over 19 points a game, which it's just crazy to think that we got so lucky to land a talent like Bryn. And the women's team is now 5-6 in the LEC, which puts them at, I believe, 5th out of the 6 positions.
I think they're 9-9 right now.
Overall,
I think they're
and then 5-6 in the
500.
conference,
to lose 2 of your best players
and still be
at 500 is crazy.
Well, that was going to be kind of my next question: is Bryn and Val, they make up for so much of the scoring that even despite injuries, do you think they're going to need another player to really step up in terms of relief for them if they want to make an LEC playoff run?
I will say this: I believe in Bryn and Val so much that I think they can make the playoffs. I think they can win a playoff game. Mm-hmm. I don't know how far they can make it because there are going to be other teams that are going to have really good defenders, and they're going to find them. They're going to psych them out and try to find them. So I think it's possible. I really believe in the character of some of the girls on that team. I really
like Samantha Lee.
Samantha Lee has gotten a lot better as a rebounder.
She's great in the paint. I love just also her character. I got to interview her for a game early this season. She's so humble, like so many of our athletes here at KSC. Just did not want to acknowledge she had a great game. She's like, "Oh, it's all my teammates," but it's like, no, you really put in a great effort, and there's a lot of building blocks going forward, especially with the returns of Ariana and Kenzie. So I do think going forward, this is going to be, like I said, for all sports, it's going to be a really hot destination for kids transitioning from their senior year of high school into D3 college.
Yeah, I agree. And I might be heaping a lot of praise on these other girls, but like some of the other girls on that team are great. I think Avery Stewart, if she can get behind just shooting more. I think she passes a lot when she's a little wide open. But if she can get it down and she can pick out her shots and just be like more assertive with the way she shoots, I think she can be really good. Lily Krasinski just had a 12 rebound game, which was fantastic. I think she had 1 or 3 points, something like that, and they kept her in. And I thought that was a really good move because Liz Bailey was doing really good. What did they play, Castleton? I think it was Castleton.
Yeah.
Yeah, Liz Bailey was on Castleton. She was fantastic. But
actually, I hope I'm right about that. It sounds right. Whatever.
Lily Krasinski was really good at finding the right place to rebound.
Absolutely.
There was a lot of times I was looking at it, and she didn't really seem like she had to box out. Ever see The Last Dance? You ever see that documentary where it's
of course.
It's like Dennis Rodman talking about like, oh, if they shoot it here, the ball's going to come
here.
He's
basically doing like calculations in his head.
Doing, and I don't know if she does calculations, but she was really good at positioning herself to get the ball to where she didn't have to
I know what you mean.
Box out, which is really that's a good skill. That's a good skill to have. If you can get 12 rebounds without boxing anyone out, you're doing something right in any basketball game.
Totally. Let's just, to wrap things up, let's go back to the men's team real quick, who are in a bit of a different position, once again atop the LEC standings. They're ranked very well, still 7th in the country for D3 hoops. And I was telling Marty last week, the fan in me expects another LEC championship, but I want another deep NCAA tournament run. What do you think of that?
I agree. I think this team is better than it was last year. I really do.
And that's saying something.
And that's saying something because that team was, to have the expectations placed on us after last year, to be able to come back and you lose some guys. You lose Jarek. You lose Mike. You lose some guys. They've been fantastic. I think Spencer Aronson is a better player than he was last year. I think he's much more than a three-point shooter. I think last year was kind of relegated to being just a shooter.
Felt like it
But this year, he's been crashing the boards. He's been getting much more open shots. There was a lot of shots last year that Spencer would take that you would just say, like, okay, if you just dribble to your right, let him blow past you and shoot the three, then that would be better. I find myself doing that less this year, which is great. I think Octavio's become a better defender. I think he's become a better rebounder. I think he takes a lot of pressure off of Jeff Hunter on the defensive end. There was actually the play that I called last game to where I said Octavio Brito needs to come in because our offense is stagnated and he just needs to do a lot of like the hard-nosed stuff. You need to get and play really good defense, going for boards. And there was one point where he got like 3 rebounds in a row with 3 other guys around him. And he was the only one down there, just fighting for the ball, getting wide open shots. And I think Mason hit a top of the key 3. That's just the stuff that you do as a leader. And just interviewing all those guys after the games, they've been fantastic to talk to. Coach Hastings, every time Coach Hastings comes over, he won't talk to us until he gets the stat sheet. One of the funniest things I've ever seen. And like they have to give it to him before he comes over, so we can end up talking to him. It's so funny.
I love that.
But no, I think we're better. I think that some stuff needs to be improved. I think we let our offense stagnate a little bit from time to time. And I don't think you can get away with that as much because you're going to be going up against better teams in the tournament, teams that don't stagnate. So you need to get a bit lucky. But overall, I think that we're doing really well. I think Jeff Hunter is fantastic. I think all those guys are great. Nate Seau, they're just really good players. So I think that we are going to make another NCAA run. We should get the bid. We should get the bid.
I hope so.
we should.
Yeah, 2 years in a row being this good.
2 years in a row.
Being this good. Well, let's hope for another LEC championship. Let's hope for another deep NCAA tournament run. That about does it. JJ, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Go Owls.
Go Owls. And hey, once again, JJ, thanks for being here. And make sure to either attend the next Owls home game against WestCon on Saturday the 10th. But if you can't make it home, tune into the live stream and you'll get to hear JJ and all of his wittiness. Coming up for the Owls, the indoor track teams travel to Plymouth for the Second Panther Invitational Saturday. And then on Saturday, the basketball teams head to UMass Boston for double LEC action. Keep your eyes on Jeff Hunter. He needs 7 rebounds and 4 blocks to become the program leader in both of those stats. And that does it for today's Owls Overtime. I'll be back next week, and be sure to let me know in the comments who you guys want to see on the show.